not going to believe this. I saw that someone on Twitter were saying, the white farmers on Twitter were saying that when they had all these mass deportations, that they just automatically thought that they were going to send the black people to work their farms. The black farmers who had already lost their farms, and just, other black people, because they needed the help and they wanted the government to send them, I guess, criminals so they can work on their farms, so they can keep their farms. Because, me keeping my farm and not caring about you and giving you low wages, that's just the American dream, right? Stop it. Y'all need to stop this. This is just totally ridiculous. Little Johnny, little Susie, all the ones that you're paying all this money because you've gotten all this government money for free. You need to go get them out of college, which is what they used to do in the olden days. Get them out of college, get them out of their little jobs, and get them working that farm on the weekend. There you go. See, I fixed it for you.
Sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers. We can't let our farmers not have anybody, these people, that you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said, that's interesting, isn't it?
Well, you heard that. Donald Trump is a believer in eugenics. He believes that white people are the superior race, and inner city is code for black people, and he believes black people cannot now work on the farms. I guess they're not good enough for that. So Hispanic people can do it because they have the backs for it.
You want to get rid of illegal immigrants, quit eating. And that's for everybody. That's, nationwide. If you want to get rid of them, quit eating. That'll solve the problem.
But when only 5 pickers showed up this morning to harvest his sweet potatoes, farmer Keith Smith saw possible ruin, the loss of his $500,000 crop.
They're running scared because of this new law.
And you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, bad trouble.
Smith's 200 acres need 20 pickers, mostly Mexican nationals.
There is not enough documented people here to supply that workforce.
Most of your workers are here illegally.
That's sure. If they got documentation, they got a better job working for me.
Fernando Aldeman, a Mexican national, has worked Smith's farm since 1992.
Everybody's just scared.
Yeah.
Now, are you here legally? No.
No.
So, are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared.
Guys, I was wrong, and I can admit that. When people were saying that mass deportations would greatly affect farmers, I didn't actually think they were serious. They said that Americans were unwilling to do the jobs that immigrants do, and I didn't believe them. But this new video that I just saw proved me wrong.
It's just been harder and harder and harder to find those people to work.
Bethany Gotts owns Quay's farm in Mountain Home, but now with fewer workers, a lot of the manual labor is left up to her. She tells me she's tried hiring locally, but it's been difficult to find people willing to do the hard work.
Finding a legal American here that is going to work as hard as an immigrant is nearly impossible.
She even posted job openings on Facebook.
I had 7 people contact me about it, and when I sent them the description, I had no people respond.
I went ahead and found the job listing. She's offering $2,000 to $3,000 a month for full-time manual labor on a farm.
She says hiring undocumented workers is not an option, with serious risks for both sides.
One, you're going to get fined. You have unfortunately, an employee living in fear. They could get picked up at any moment, and then you're without an employee.
To keep her farm running, Gotts is hiring high schoolers and is now looking into the federal H-2A visa program.
I have endeavored to spend $200,000 to build a small worker housing so that I can get H-2 workers next year.
This is what it means when we say racism is not just immoral, but it's very, very expensive. See, what is being exposed right now in America is what happens when people vote based on their identities, who they are told they are, instead of voting for their own interest and the interest of general good. Because the same policies these same people cheered for are now choking their own livelihoods. Then ironically, instead of confronting the people that are causing them the pain and the harm economically and socially, they turn back and, start dragging black people into the equation. The same black people who try to warn them against this guy, against this government, against electing this gentleman, if you can call him so. So that is the irony of it all. They don't even see who is inflicting their pain. Let's continue to watch, and I'll be back with more good commentary.
So I want to talk about this article really quick because it's all starting to make so much sense right now. This author and journalist was having lunch with friends. There was a white guy and he's married to a black lady, and they were talking politics. And he says that farmers weren't worried about Trump deporting migrants because, wait for it, they thought because unemployment was so high for black people, that these black people would run back to the fields and do the jobs that the migrants were doing when they got deported. So she asked, where'd you get that information from? White farmer TikTok or MAGA Facebook memes? Where'd you get this information from? And her and the wife basically started giving him information, letting him know unemployment is only 6.8% for African Americans, and 93% of black people are currently working. Got so caught up in what they were hearing at Fox News and other places, thinking black jobs, immigrants are taking black jobs, that they just assumed they'd get rid of the immigrants and black people would take the immigrants' jobs. Sir, our ancestors did not march, die, and fight for civil rights so we could go back to the fields? What? But shout out to the Latino immigrant population that have mastered that labor with skill and stamina. This country doesn't even appreciate it enough. Oh, and by the way, when they do try to hire Americans, black or white, to do those jobs, most of them don't even last half a day. They just ghost them without even picking up their paychecks. True story. So y'all, tell me, do you really believe that they thought black people were planning to replace immigrants in that labor force if they got deported? Because I need to know who was smoking that logic.
Trump says, be patient. The farmer's going to be better than ever. Well, you better hurry up, because we can't stand this much.
That was Franz Roland, a farmer here in southern Georgia. He's been farming for more than 40 years, but he said the last year has been one of the most difficult ever.
With the prices like they are today, we're not going to make any money. We just try to figure out a way to not lose so much.
He doesn't blame President Trump for the economic challenges he's facing, but he said the Trump administration hasn't helped farmers either.
We've lost our market share, our trade to China. I don't know who dropped the ball in Washington.
In 2017, dumbass, Donald Trump, the man you voted for, the adjudicated rapist, caused a trade war with China, where only $3.1 billion in soybeans. Under Joe Biden, but Biden, because, he's a radical left libtard that just murders babies and worships Satan, had one of the highest exports of soybeans. And what did you do? You, sir, saw the black woman on the ballot, and you said there was no way in God's earth I'm going to vote for a black woman. I'm going to Make America White again. That's how stupid you are. You went to the voting booth and voted and said, I don't know, I have a convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist who owes E. Jean Carroll $80 million, has dinner with white supremacists, caused an insurrection, and you said, I'm a dumbass. I don't care about morality. I just care about me and maintaining whiteness. LBJ said it best. This country will vote for the most morally bankrupt white man who's literally stealing your wallet over the most qualified black man. And that's exactly what you did. You don't care about anybody but yourself. You and the entire MAGA movement are the most selfish people who have ever lived in the United States of America. It's rich. How many of you Pharisees walk around with your Make America White Again hats and you say there's no greater commandment than to love thy neighbor as thyself? Do you know what that means? Loving your neighbors more than yourself. The person you claim to believe is Jesus, who literally sacrificed his life for people, fed hungry people, gave medical treatment to the needy, talked about compassion, grace, and empathy, and all you voted for was me, and my farm. You didn't care about E. Jean Carroll, or the 25 women that he assaulted, or the girls on Epstein Island he molested. You didn't care about the officers on January 6th. You don't care about the women in Texas who have a 56% increased mortality rate. You don't care about the kids in schools and shopping malls and businesses that are murdered by guns. You don't care about Amber Thurman, who lost her life from not getting health care. You don't care about Adriana Smith in Georgia, who was kept on a ventilator for 4 months because, we're pro-life, even though she was brain dead. And even hearing this, your little white supremacist brain cannot comprehend giving a shit about anybody but your whiteness, sir. You're what's wrong with this country. You are. I'm not even a Democrat. I want universal health care. And in this last election, I voted for Harris and Walz because they were decent people. I voted for John McCain and Obama, a Republican. I have voted all across the aisle. But this man is a piece of shit. And so are you, sir, for voting for him. Because I guarantee you that if E. Jean Carroll was your mom or your daughter, there's no way in hell you would have voted for him. But it's not me, but I'm pro-life, but I don't give a crap about them. In this last election, when I voted, this is the kind of person that I am, sir. I voted for women's rights, and I'm not a woman. I voted for universal health care, even though I can afford my own. I voted to help people get out of college debt, even though I paid for my own. I voted for people to have an increased minimum wage, even though I don't make minimum wage. I voted for everybody else in this country, knowing as a small business owner, my taxes would go up. And you know why? Because I don't give a shit. Because I'm not a selfish prick like you. And you people call it personal freedom and don't tread on me. And that's symbolic of people like you, sir. You don't care about anybody but your damn self. You don't care about this country. You care about me. You are an anchor, a remnant of Jim Crow, of the lost cause. That's all you are. You're stuck in 1776 white America with this version of American exceptionalism, sir. How many times have you talked about Black history? Do you celebrate Black History Month? Do you talk about slavery, Jim Crow? Genocide of Native Americans, the Middle Passage? I bet you don't talk about any of that, but you'll talk about your goddamn gun every day. You'll talk about how we're the best of the best of the best. Because that's what it was about, sir. You wanted to maintain the lie of white American exceptionalism, and you would rather burn this country to the ground. You would rather suffer under the hands of a white man than thrive under a black woman. And your dumb ass is like, oh, I don't blame Trump, but I don't know where the government went wrong. Gee, I don't know, sir. Maybe the guy with 3 failed marriages. Maybe the guy with 6 bankruptcies. Maybe the guy that added $8 trillion to the debt. Maybe the guy you voted for that added $1 trillion to the debt the last 2 months. I don't know, sir. Maybe the guy's just a shitty businessman. Just maybe. But you're so stupid that you can't see outside of your own ignorance and racism and white supremacy and misogyny. And I'll leave you with this question, Karen. Why don't you go ask yourself, in 250 years as a country, half of our country are women? Why don't you go ask yourself, why have we never elected a woman? Why did this country, 77 million, vote for this vile, disgusting human being who calls women fat and ugly, who sexually assaults them, who molests little girls, and cheats on every wife, and hires people like Pete Hegseth, who cheats on their wives and has women out of wedlock and sexually assaults women? over the black woman. Why don't you go ask yourself that, sir, and have a little bit in your shitty life, a little bit of self-reflection, and maybe, just maybe, sir, one day you'll figure out that you're the problem with this country.
So Texas farms don't have no workers? I like salad, y'all. I mean, what we gonna do? I'm not going out there. Y'all should have left them folks alone. Now look at us. We already overweight, out of shape, high blood pressure. Now we ain't got no vegetables. I am just waiting on MAGA to report to the fields. It's your turn.
So I know I was talking about, the Latino vote before. The Viva vote for Donald Trump. Okay, well, let's get on to the white folks. The white farmers. So, word is out now that the white farmers voted for Donald Trump because they thought they were going to get black Americans in the fields. Because they also thought black folks did not have jobs. So when we put this all together, somehow the white farmers were convinced that black folks don't have jobs. We don't work. we don't work. And so they voted for Donald Trump because they thought, okay, he gonna send them in the fields. So Donald Trump and them, with their whole Project 2025, said, okay, so we got to make this happen. So we got to cut these DEI stuff, all this DEI stuff, to put black Americans out of work. When in reality, they put a bunch of white folk out of work just to get black folks out of work. And so all these cuts that are happening are to try and harm black Americans so much till they think that we're going to go into the fields. Now, when you think about that, that makes you double back and see why they want the Latinos out. Because the Latinos, right, to them, they are reproducing entirely too fast, okay? And so they're like, we got to get them out of here because black Americans don't reproduce as fast as the Latinos. And so if we could get them out, then the black Americans can take their place in the field. This is for real. And so now you double back to the black jobs. They're taking your job. Yes, you got to double back to what he said. They're taking black jobs, y'all. Like, they have all this down. Like, they have all this whole circle. So now let's go back to the farmers if you're still with me, okay? Because the white farmers, that's what they believed was going to happen. So if y'all got all that straight, this is the message to the white farmers. The last thing you want is for black Americans to be in your fields. Don't let the devil fool you. As a matter of fact, you might want to let the devil fool you to see what's going to happen. Well, I'm trying to tell you, the last thing you ever going to want is black Americans in your fields. Nah, I'm going to let you fill in the blank on that one. And this goes to show that they will go to any lengths. Remember I said that, first of all, we had the Latinos, some Latinos, not all of them, just them Cuban ones, talk about you're next, right? To black Americans. So they thought we was immigrants, okay? And so now we have the white farmers who are still living in the 1700s, thinking back to glory days, quote unquote. They thought with their vote, we were going to the fields. So you got one group thinking they gonna kick us out of here, and you got another group of people thinking that we going to the fields. Now this right here is a real mental problem because people are literally stuck. I'm telling y'all, people are stuck in the 1700s when they think about black Americans, okay? I'm telling you, their thought process, they sit around probably at campgrounds and picnics and stuff and talk about how can we make this happen. That was their heyday. I'm telling you, when that freaking plantation house burned down in Louisiana, I think, right? That was their heyday. Now, I'm trying to tell you, that was their heyday. When that plantation house down in Louisiana got torched, okay? I'm telling you, that broke them. But I just want to, you know what? I want to teach them a little bit more history if I have your attention, right? If I have your attention, right? This is some history that a lot of people don't know, okay? But y'all didn't know Black Americans had white servants? Y'all ain't know that? I mean, it wasn't widespread or anything like that, but we had white servants. Yeah, and they wanted to be our servants because they needed work. They were coming over from Europe. Yeah, and they were docile too. Yeah, they were docile. And Black Americans, the aristocrats, hmm the wealthy ones, because they were wealthy ones, okay? They had white servants. So I don't know if y'all ever see them pictures. Let me find a picture. I couldn't find a picture. I wasn't gonna go back and try to find a picture. But if you can watch videos, you'll be able to find a picture of possibly some black people in the horse-drawn carriages. And there may be someone white as the horseman or I'm not sure what you call them, coachman or whatever. Yeah, he worked for them. Yes, indeed. It was a big thing. It was a big, big thing, when everybody began to see in the early 1900s, what? Black Americans, they use the other word. Black Americans have white servants. Yeah, that's a bit of history they don't like to put on TV. And the reason for it is because they were like, okay, they had white people here that they could hire, and they also had black people here that they could hire. But they felt that the white people from Europe were so docile, and they were less expensive. Now, they weren't the only ones who thought that. The wealthy white people thought that too. The wealthy white people were like, yeah, we like the docile immigrant white people. They're a lot cheaper. They take less money. Yeah, so there's a bit of history for you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it was like that. Oh yeah, because they knew they would have to pay Black Americans a lot more. Lot more. So they always went for the immigrant. And see, when the Black Americans hired the white immigrants, they were like really like, yes, we will do it. Yes, we will do it, because they want to stay in America. Here's the difference though. Black Americans didn't mistreat them. They didn't mistreat them at all. But anyway, that's just a little side note. But yeah, to the white farmers again, this is the last thing you want. The last thing you want is for Black Americans to be out in your fields. The last thing you want. Trust and believe. And next time, you know what? Stop basing your vote on how to harm Black Americans, because you're gonna end up running into that wall that's gonna tumble. Okay? That's what's gonna end up happening. Stop doing that. All of you do it. Like, all of you. You had the conservative Asian Americans coming through with the whole Ivy League school. We don't want Black Americans there. Then you had the I will vote for Donald Trump Cubans, okay, who were thinking, okay, you're next, okay, we're not immigrants, so we're not next. And now we have the white farmer who thought that they were going to get the Black Americans in the fields, and then this is all off of Project 2025. So now look where you got America. Look where you got the United States of America. And a lot of people say, why Black Americans think everything revolves around them? No, y'all think everything revolves around us because y'all make everything revolve around us. Y'all stuff coming out.
All right, now once again, here is where it gets almost poetic, in a brutal kind. The very people who demanded for mass deportations are now standing in their empty fields, watching their crops go bad, watching the crops not picked, no workers, no system, just consequences of their own choices, of their own actions. And, they were told and they believed that immigrants were stealing their jobs. They didn't give it an afterthought. They didn't think, there was something else malicious to such, political statements. They just moved with it. Now that the immigrants are gone and they've been either deported, detained, or cannot leave their houses, and suddenly the jobs that were promised they will be back once immigrants are not there, they don't look so attractive to any of them. They are just not capable of doing them. And because the truth was never about the jobs or immigrants stealing their jobs, it was about creating a perception, trying to, lie to them who their problem is, and creating a scapegoat. This is what politicians are so good at. And now reality has entered the chat here, and they can't help. Then comes the second shock to these people. The social programs like SNAP, like the Affordable Care Act, and the DEI initiatives, the same ones that were demonized, the same ones that, their good politicians told them how, they were being used to exploit the system. Turned out that a large number of these poor white MAGA, people are the ones that benefit in huge numbers from these social benefits. So now what is happening is that the illusion has cracked, because they always thought, and they are always told without second thought, that the people that, the welfare queen myth, they believed it. And instead of holding their leadership accountable, and that's where the big problem begins, some are now turning around and asking Black Americans, why are you not coming out to protest? Why are you not speaking? And even most ironical, why are you not coming out to work the farms? There's more jobs now because these people are gone. Why can't you come and work on our farms? That question alone tells you everything you need to know about how they think, how they operate. This is not the 1900s anymore. You don't get to summon people like labor on demand. Black Americans have already fought these battles. They warned you repeatedly, clearly, and loudly enough for you to hear and understand what's going on. But racism is a strange kind of blindness. They are blinded by racism. It convinces you to reject warning signs that are going to hurt you, not any other person. Because, to them, who is delivering the warning sign? If you are to tell him you're going to ban if you go this route, just because they don't agree with the person delivering, they'd rather end up into the fire, So now there's no outrage from them anymore, no urgency from Black Americans anymore, just distance and quiet and just chilling. Because why struggle to fight a fire that you did not start, especially when you tried to stop that even before it began? This moment right here is what happens when people choose division over reality, politicians over each other. You don't just fight the wrong people, you trust the wrong leadership. This is exactly what's happening now. You're confronting Black people, but they didn't do anything. In fact, if anything, they try to help you, warn you about a looming crisis. Now you have fighting with the wrong people, and you have bad leadership in place. And now the bill has arrived. And you know what? With the bill, Donald Trump is not there to help you. You know what? Something else with the bill, it does not take your, narratives, your false propaganda. So if there is any lesson in here at all, it's simple. Stop looking sideways. Hey, MAGA, stop looking to the sides and looking for scapegoats. Stop blaming the wrong groups and the wrong people. Face forward and hold accountable the people who you handed power to, yourselves. Because in the end, racism doesn't just hurt the target, those that you thought you're going to really hurt, but it also hurts and bankrupts the believer of the system. And that's exactly what is happening. Yeah. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment on your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.